Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us to the leaders that pass away. Put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the
Oh, another glorious day here in the western part of the United States, the northwestern part of the United States. We've got one of those glorious, partly cloudy, wonderful weather. It's, I don't know. This is the type of weather, Ramon, that I picture as perfect. Mid 70s. Sun, we got those nice fluffy billowy clouds out there that I get to do all sorts of little mind games with. I see that the cloud busting thing, all the different shapes and sylphs and faces and all of that stuff comes out of the clouds and something I haven't seen yet in the clouds, Ramon, is a monkey. And with the name of our show, the 100th Monkey Radio, I'm surprised that I haven't seen one yet. So
I keep seeing dragons.
Yeah. Well, you're in Japan. That's about right, huh? Oh, so I threw a couple new things up in the news section here this week. Let's see, the UFO secrets. There's some stuff that's been found after 128 years. Photographs, actually, some from the first images that were taken that are kind of amazing. Actually, this picture's been around for 128 years and nobody's ever seen it. There's a link there if you guys want to check it out. But I did some poking around this weekend and found a couple of different things. Let's see. There's
the pyramid on Antarctica.
Oh yeah, the pyramids in Antarctica. Those are actually kind of interesting. Yeah, those I'm still. I'd like to see somebody get on the ground there and do some poking around to verify that one, because there's a lot of natural formations that.
I'll buy you a ticket.
Oh, you'll buy me a ticket? Oh.
Yeah, it's only $10,000.
And that's just to get me there. What about my parkas and?
That's your problem. Also, you put up the Russian scientist proves that the shark stone is real, and there's a link to that as well.
Now, I didn't look into that too much. It looked kind of intriguing on the surface. So, been so damn busy this last couple of weeks. It's just ridiculous. I'm hardly having a chance to take a breath. So, anyways, meanwhile, back at the ranch, we do have the tickets for the Pythagoras conference are still available through the site here, and that's happening October 10th through the 14th in Indiana. And so if you'd like to, if you plan on going to that, we would definitely appreciate it if you bought your tickets through us, and that helps support the show. Let's see, we're on Facebook, Twitter,
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, Daily Motion, Vimeo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And besides that, anything else, Ramon? Or you just want to get into this show? I'm really excited about this one tonight.
Yeah, before you actually go into the bio, I remember I went to the movie theater to watch What the Bleep, and I was just blown away. And it's the first time I heard of our guest was that day, and it really did something to me psychologically. It just made me look at things at a whole different. The pair of glasses I had, the rosy sunglasses I had, got slapped off my face, and I got to see something different. I was just amazed. So I'm really excited to get talking to this person. So.
Okay, well, tonight we have Amit Goswami. He is really doesn't need much of an introduction as far as what he's done in this field, because I'm sure if you're listening to our show that you are probably pretty familiar with him. He is a retired theoretical physics teacher from the University of Oregon, and he's written all sorts of books. And he just is your newest book out? Oh, geez, let me get down to it. What was it called? God is Not Dead. Is that out yet, Dr. Goswami? Or
it has come out in I think this is the paperback edition. It was out in 2008 in hardback.
Oh, okay. Okay, so is that coming out now in paper?
Yeah, the paperback edition is out, I think, has been out for maybe about 6 months or so.
Great. Well, welcome to the 100th Monkey, where both Ramon and I have been really excited ever since we got you scheduled in here. You're kind of I won't say, you're quite an icon, let's put it that way. You're quite an icon in this field.
Thank you.
The whole quantum physics thing has really come back to the surface. I from what I have researched, it made quite a stir back in the early 20th century, and then it seemed to kind of die down.
Yeah, I think you're right in your assessment.
Yeah. So, why has it come back now at this time?
Well, several reasons. The reason the excitement died down was the World War II. And after World War II, obviously, material reasons took over. People had to revive their civilization in America and Europe. And in America, not so much civilization, but economy need to be excited and kept up because World War II enabled them to recover from the Great Depression, but still there were a lot of challenges. And of course, Europe had to rebuild very largely. So that kept the people away from philosophical issues. And the philosophical issues, therefore, just stayed in back burner, except, of course, in the mind of very selective few physicists, and they are revered today. David Bohm was one, John Bell was another one, and a couple of experimental people also were very instrumental. But except for them, nobody pays much attention until Alan Aspect did the crucial experiment that became famous, bears his name, Aspect experiment, and that was about the non-local communication between two particles of light, photons. And that attracted everybody's attention. Of course, we need to mention also the book Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra, which brought the idea into the forefront of some people anyway, that maybe there is connection between science and spirituality. That's what drew me to this field, because I immediately realized that the connection must be much deeper than Capra was prepared to explore. And so that gave me a huge added incentive to the already some incentive I had from my personal experience. And so the combination eventually led to a solution of the quantum measurement problem, which as people have been struggling with that. John Wheeler gets a lot of credit for keeping it open for a very long time. Of course, eventually he himself could not handle the solution, because he was still alive when I finally found the solution. And he wrote me a personal letter. Unfortunately, I lost it. So, but it was a handwritten letter, and really, I was very grateful that at least he cared enough. But he said in that letter that he couldn't go that far. But actually, in actuality, in his writing, he himself came very close. So, those are the main figures. Fred Alan Wolf gets some credit too, because he started popularizing quantum physics, and eventually his reason was to bring consciousness in it. But again, he got sidetracked by an alternative explanation called the many worlds theory, which sidetracked Wheeler, sidetracked Fred Allen, sidetracked many people.
Right.
But eventually, I came through because of many synchronicities, and of course, Henry Stapp, a Berkeley physicist, he came to very, very similar conclusions, although again, for political reasons, could not go as far as I have gone. And then Casey Blood at Rutgers came to the same conclusions, and he was close to retirement, so he didn't suffer from the same bashfulness as Henry. So in his book, he has embraced very similar notions as I.
Well, I'm really glad it's come back to the surface, because I personally see that it's crucial to have something there on that, I hate to term it this way, but on that side of the fence between science and spirituality. The quantum physics is coming out of the pure science end of things, and I think what we're coming to now is something that where the two are starting to meet at the fence. And it's a crucial thing, and for the psychology of humanity, to be able to have something to prove that.
Yeah, and don't forget our economic situation and the political situation. This polarization of worldviews that have come to head to head recently in view of the evolutionism, creationism debate on one hand, the complete polarization between Republicans and Democrats in America, which has completely polarized the politics, not only politics, the economic situation too. That is entirely a worldview clash. Although, again, people don't talk philosophy anymore. Journalists, in fact, you guys I'll classify as partly as journalists, and journalists are a lot to blame for this. People have become very shallow in terms of philosophical talking. And so what happened is that nobody's pointing out that it's the worldview clash that is producing the political logjam, the economic logjam to a large extent. The logjam is between the old Christian religious worldview that gives very much value to our intuitive virtues, values that we call them truth, beauty, justice, love, goodness, this kind of thing. Whereas science has become entirely materialist, the idea is that everything is based on matter, everything is brain, including our spirituality. But if spirituality is just brain, using spirituality we cannot change. In fact, this science, if you take it literally, just as if you take Christianity literally, it's not a credible thing. And similarly, the science is also not a credible thing because you do change, and there are just so much examples of it. And if we couldn't change, why are we anyway? What are we doing anyway? All of this talk, etc., is also completely meaningless. And this is what the scientists say. With amazing thing is that they get away with saying these things. Nobody ridicules them, and because people are just not interested in getting into the deep philosophical questions, and therefore they never think of framing it as a worldview clash between scientific materialism and the Christian worldview.
Right.
Yeah, that actually brings me to a question. Your dad was a guru, correct?
My dad was a Brahmin guru in India, and he did have a very good spiritual savvy, I must say. In that respect, I didn't quite see it then. How?
No, I was gonna say, how did he influence you?
Well, the influence, of course, unfortunately, or maybe it is the fortunate influence too. You can call it whichever way you like. The way my life has gone, I would say it was fortunate. There was not much influence, except, of course, I always felt good in his proximity. And now I ascribe it to his spiritual savvy. But I never picked up much of what he was talking to me about. Sometimes he would talk to me about the deep Hindu spiritual treatise, Upanishadic teachings, and we knew all the great Upanishadic sayings, of course, from childhood, from his teaching, and from our reading too, which we encourage also. But in truth, it produced the opposite effect. The very Hindu ritualistic environment that I grew up in produced the effect that I came to science eventually. In fact, it was kind of unconscious because I was prepared to go into humanities, prepared to go into the subject of history, which interested me greatly and still does. But then at the last moment I chose science, and even then, initially I was going to go into medical science because that's what my mother wanted me to be. But then at the very last moment I had admission, I had scholarship, but I went to physics. So, this kind of thing has happened in my life many, many, many times. And I call them sort of synchronicity, using Carl Jung's language. And I think that in all people's lives, synchronicities come and play a huge role. It's just that in this materialist culture, we have stopped paying attention to them. When we do, you will find that there is story. Like this show is called Hundredth Monkey. I mean, you must have a story behind it. So, everybody has stories like this. We just don't publicize them because the culture, present culture, has lost the capacity, the flexibility of encouraging such truly liberal discussions. Liberal used to be at one point meaning that you are liberal against the bigotry, not only religious, but of any kind. But then, unfortunately, the academe now teaches liberal to mean permissiveness, and academe is, they themselves are bastions of scientific materialism, and they teach dogma openly, straight jacket of scientific materialism, everything is brain. This dogma is now taught quite openly in the academe. So academe supports this, and the religious education church supports religion, opposite worldview, God exists, etc. and so forth. So we are stuck between two worldviews very, very badly in this country, 50% this way, 50% that way. And this is why we have these log jams.
The amazing thing that me and Tom are both seeing because of this show is there is a lot of scientists that are at least coming out and saying how they see it. For example, like people like yourself have been coming out. So I think little by little, it's getting better and better.
Yes,
but
you are right.
small baby steps.
Yes, you are right, and that is the hope. And hope itself, of course, is a very consciousness thing. I mean, if you are a scientific materialist, you cannot hope. Hope is excluded from your feelings. Generally are excluded, but especially optimism and hope. You can only be a pessimist. So this is very good. And of course, religion also, you cannot have hope beyond that straitjacket of hope if you are a Christian and hope if you are taking refuge in Jesus. But other than that, you cannot have hope. So both of the isms that people follow today exclude hope, exclude optimism. And because of it, of course, is also all this suffering. Because when hope disappears from our life, depression enters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how is it possible that our consciousness allows us to make choices? Because, for example, you were saying in your own case how you had many synchronicities, and sometimes when, as John Campbell would say, when you follow your bliss, it almost seems like, to a certain degree, it seems like the choices were made for you, but you also, at the same time, made the choice to follow your bliss.
No, actually, I agree some of what you are saying, but a little bit disagreement technical, Ramon, because look, in synchronicity, there is an external event, very striking, no question, and that attracts our attention. But the internal event, the meaning that I see is my choice. It's subtle. It seems like it fell as a whole brick on my head, and therefore I didn't have any choice. But that's not true. I chose to look at it. I chose to pay attention to it. That's the choice. So, this choice is so subtle. This is why most people don't pay attention to the synchronicities, because they don't see it as a ton of brick. People who see it, they are choosing already. Okay? So, yes, the choice, this is what the gift of quantum physics is. Quantum physics has a paradox. It's called the measurement paradox. Quantum objects are possibilities. How these possibilities become actuality cannot be resolved without postulating that you have something that is non-material in the world. The world is not matter and matter's interaction, as scientific materialism says, because according to quantum physics, which is part of our materialist science, all material objects are possibilities. So, and part of quantum physics, quantum mathematics is that these possibilities cannot be converted into actualities through material interactions. There has to be a non-material interaction. And if you think about it, it cannot be dualism, a dualistic God or consciousness or some force acting on matter either, because how does such dualistic non-matter interact with matter? That requires energy, and energy of the physical world itself is always constant. So you get paradox in dualistic thinking, you get paradox in materialist thinking. This is called quantum measurement paradox. How does the paradox resolve itself? It resolves itself as soon as you realize that quantum possibilities are possibilities of consciousness itself to choose from. So you were asking, what is the force? What is the way that we choose? We choose because objects are actually possibilities. Before a thought occurs to me, it's possibility. And I choose from those possibilities one of the facets. Possibility means many-faceted object. I choose one of the facets. That then becomes the actual event in my experience. So in this way, consciousness enters physics, free will enters physics, our choice comes back, our creativity comes back, everything that the scientific materialist philosophy has taught us does not exist begins to exist once again. Our subtle experiences come back, our intuitions come back, and as soon as we put all these things into the equation of our living, into the equation of our society, society can change.
So you think, where would, do you think destiny has a place here as far as, do you think the possibility exists. Well, I know the possibility exists, but I'm curious on your input on destiny and like a predetermined path in life.
Yeah, that's the thing. We assume that they're predetermined, but if we look at evolution, if we look at how the world of consciousness actually evolves, we find that it's not really predestined in any specific way. It is predestined in a very general way. What is the predestiny? The predestiny is for consciousness. Carl Jung discovered this even before quantum physics. What is the predestiny is that consciousness manifests the world in order to see itself, in order to experience all the possibilities in manifestation. So out of these possibilities, we find that there are four kinds of possibilities. Material possibilities are, of course, the grossest, so we are very aware of it. Science revels in it. Most of the material is science is solved, which is very, very nice. We appreciate that from materialists. I never negate their work. Their work is great. It is completely included in the new science. But that's the gross part of it. And then there is the subtle part. We think, we feel, we intuit, and those are the worlds that we are mostly concerned about right now. Mostly concerned about anyway, because apart from the material world, which matters to us most in a personal way, is our mind, is our feelings, is our intuitions. And the most subtle are, of course, the possibilities that we intuit. Those archetypes. Truth, beauty, love, justice, we cannot but thrive in our exploration of them. And when we are not exploring them, we are a little depressed. You should notice that. I mean, everybody should notice that if you don't, in a whole day, if you have not explored any of these things, if you have not been good to another person, if you have not given to another person, if you have not loved, you just will be a little bit depressed. You won't be quite satisfied. Although you may have a whole day of pleasure, wonderful food, wonderful sex, wonderful scenery, wonderful material stuff to enjoy, but somehow something is lacking. This is the power of the subtle. This is the evolution, direction of the evolution, to manifest the subtlest of all, these values, these archetypes, in the very life that we live on Earth. So if you think of that, then there's this gross destiny that everybody has. Okay? How we get there is up to us.
Okay, gotcha.
This weekend I went out with my wife and we had dinner with some of her friends, and some of her friends are very into the esoteric things and others are very scientific. And it was like, I don't believe in any of that. And I just asked her a question. I said, well, in scientific form, how do you explain love? Because you've been in love, you know how you feel. And is it just chemical reactions? What is that? Because to my knowledge, I don't think you can prove love in a lab yet.
Well, you can actually, indirectly. But indirect measurements have become fashionable even in physics for quite some time. This is something else that people don't realize. People don't realize that scientific materialists, their greatest theory of elementary particles, has building blocks called quarks. Matter is supposed to be made of these quarks, but quarks never can come out of the confinement of the proton or the neutron or other what are called baryons. So they're confined in them. But if they don't see daylight, why should we believe them? Why should we assume that they exist? Because they produce indirect effects that we can measure. These indirect effects that can be measured has given us new ideas in physics ever since Einstein's relativity theory, which again can be only proven, most of it can be proven only indirectly. although some of it now can be proven quite directly. But at the time that we accepted relativity, much of the verification came from indirect measurements. So this idea that the indirect measurements produce direct results or believable results in physics has been common for almost a century now. So this is how we do it. So subtle energies that gives us feeling. We experience subtle energies, vital energies, when you have a feeling. For example, when you have feeling of love, you experience it in the what is called the heart chakra. This is why heart is so glamorized in the spiritual parlance. So can you measure this feeling that you have? Can you measure the energy in the heart? Yes, indirect measurements are piling up now. There is a new view in biology which has helped a lot. Biologists have found that not only there is the biochemical body, which is of course the well-known one. Biology's chemistry was the wisdom for quite a while. But now lots of biologists are finding, especially with the help of biophysicists, that there is an electromagnetic body in the body's surface at the skin. And this electromagnetic body is also correlated with these vital energies. So when our vital energy changes, like you have feeling of love in your heart chakra that you can feel in the heart. We really feel warmth, we really feel throbs in the heart when our loved one passes by, at least in the beginning. So can we measure that energy? So we have the measurement of the biophysical body, which is quite visible in our instruments. We can measure it electrically because it's electromagnetic. So you see how we can today, somebody feels love in his heart chakra, and we can take this Kalyan photograph and measure the change in the biophysical body, which is due to the change in the emotion of the person. So indirectly we are measuring, literally, emotion or lack of it in the heart chakra. Lack of it produces cancer, breast cancer in women especially, and that too we have been measuring, and people have been giving early warnings to women that you have heart energy block and please check it out and do something. And people go to oncologists and they take a biopsy and they find that indeed there is the beginning of a cancer. And if you detect so early, they can do something about it very easily without mastectomy. So things are changing very rapidly in this field. Energy psychology, energy medicine, these things have become quite common. Today people suffer from things like which used to be called psychological disease, basically like a phobia. People can go to an energy medicine practitioner and just there are simple procedures that will cure you from your phobia, not psychological but very physical. They will just change the energy where these psychological blocks have been locked up in the muscles of the body. They will just touch the muscles. And many, many old practices, like why people used to wear stones or crystals on their body in order to heal them, now it's becoming clear because they help recirculate vital energies in our body.
Yeah, that's one aspect of this time that we live in right now that really gets me excited too, is all the that's that meeting at the fence between that science and spirituality that I was talking about, where we're actually now we're finding or we're developing the instruments to measure and prove that all these people who have been doing this energy work for thousands and thousands of years, there's really something to it. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
There is something to it.
It's good, definitely.
These chakras have been around in Eastern psychology especially for a very long time. And when the idea came to the West, people are very skeptic. Of course, the heart chakra everybody knew. Even in the West, they celebrate the Valentine's Day, which is a celebration of the heart chakra.
Right.
But even so, Westerners were very skeptic initially, but then psychologists started working with them, and the result was amazing. Very quick acceptance among therapists, not so much among the theoretical psychologists of the academe. They remain as behavioral as ever. But people who are in the field who have to heal people, they have a different responsibility altogether. Because people want to see results. They don't want to pay a psychoanalyst necessarily, all that thousands of dollars without any healing. It is useful for some things like coping, but it's not that useful. Whereas if it is subject to a treatment of energy medicine, energy psychology, then the result is so obvious, so quick. That's how acupuncture also entered our society, which is part of energy medicine. And so, in this way, spirituality, if it directly impacts our lives, then we believe it the most. Then even the staunch opposition to spirituality goes away.
Mm.
So, what is quantum activism?
Quantum activism is an idea. It's an idea of activism in the service of transformation, both social and personal. Social and personal. How? Because we are saying that we have now the quantum know-how, at least a lot of it, not the final word necessarily at all. Nobody is claiming that. I certainly am never claimed that we have everything about the new science, but we have the beginnings of a real scientific know-how of how to transform using the quantum principles. These quantum principles I talked to you about, one already non-locality, which is signal-less communication. Another one is discontinuity, quantum leaps of insight. Creativity has ample examples of such quantum leaps of insight. When an electron jumps from one orbit to another in an atom, it does not go through the intervening space. Similarly, in creativity, when we jump from one set of known ideas which is not giving me any solution to the problem I'm seeking to a solution, it does not go through the thoughts, don't go through the intermediate steps either. We cannot give you the algorithms how I reach the conclusion, but I do reach conclusions. And so these creative insights, of course, are the basis of all science, all of arts, and not all science, most science, all of arts, and music and so forth. So nobody can deny the potency of creativity. But the idea that spirituality is also creativity is very new. So spirituality was not understood for a long time. How do you transform? How do you learn to love? You guys are, at least one of you already have said that you are married, so you must be interested in how to love my wife. It's easy to talk about love. Romantic love comes easily. It's almost built into our system. But to love somebody, to give way to somebody's consciousness as I give way to my consciousness, that is pretty tough. Unconditional love, as the spiritual traditions call it. So everybody is a little curious, I'm sure. Okay, how do I do it? How do I value somebody so much? And quantum physics makes it a little bit easier by recognizing the process. It's the same process as the creative process. Because you understand the creative process very well with quantum physics and from empirical data, we really can say today that if you want to know spiritual stuff like how to love, you can by following the creative process. You can, and we have many suggestions to give to boot. So I think a new age is coming because not only can we say that spirituality is valid, quantum physics is telling us the way to engage in spiritual transformation. So this is the gift of quantum activism. Why activism? Because we need to change society. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to do this personally. The reason is that if the society is very non-supportive, then I have to earn my living doing other things, and that takes away bulk of the time that is necessary to transform ourselves. In order to transform, we really have to engage body, mind, and soul into the exploration, just as creative people are allowed to do. The breakthroughs of science have come because it created the academe. The breakthroughs of some of the breakthroughs of religion has come because religions has freed a whole bunch of people, namely the monks and the clergies and the sadhus in India, to explore just that thing, just the nature of love, just the nature of God, nothing else. You have to do that. How do you do that when you have to do a job of some other kind to make a living during my waking hours? I have so much responsibility for making a living in a dull, meaningless way. So we have to change society so that society starts providing us with professions that are meaningful, that give us the possibility of exploring values that you're talking about, that allows us the creativity to actually fulfill the potential that we have, follow our bliss, as you are talking in another language, Joseph Campbell. So this is the challenge of activism. We have to use activism because society, contrary to personal is already very hard to change. There is a lot of inertia in our personal life too, but nothing compared to social inertia. That inertia is so huge that to change society, you really have to join together. All the people who are capable of making personal changes, capable of understanding quantum physics, they have to stand together and come to the resolution that we will do it anyway. Now the 100th monkey comes of some great help because it turns out that not everybody in the society has to partake in the changes. If the society develops a permissive atmosphere, just like we did back 400 years ago, we developed a truce, a permissiveness from the church that, okay, so long as you do it in the academe, you can do what you want to do. You can do your science. So we have to develop a similar permissive environment that, okay, there are materialists, they will still monopolize places like Harvard and Princeton, but in some obscure places you are allowed to do, like you guys are doing this radio, although bulk of media is, of course, very scientific, materialist-oriented. So we have to create these niches more and more. Internet is helping us greatly because Internet is free. It's pretty much free to pursue all creeds, all opinions, all, but still there are many obstructions here too. I was amazed by seeing that somebody was able to eliminate my entry. Nothing to do with me. Somebody put in an entry in the Wikipedia. I didn't know about it, but then somebody took it out, which I didn't know either, but somebody told me that, why, how come your entry was gone? So my associates are looking into it. We are thinking of even bringing a lawsuit if necessary to restore it. So even Internet has begun to have restrictions, but we have to keep the Internet away from this kind of attitude, and hopefully we can. It's a serious business. We have to be activistic. We have to join together. But coming back to the 100th monkey, the new science, this started with Rupert Sheldrake some time ago in the 80s. But the new science has the conclusion, quantum physics agrees with Sheldrake, that only a few people, relatively speaking, few people maybe 1%, few people maybe a few million, so 1/10 of 1%. But if only a relatively few people are needed to actually make the transformation. We need a society conducive, the society to give a niche for us to explore, and society to give enough jobs for some of us to have that body, mind, and soul engaged with these creative transformational questions. But if we can get that out of society, if we can eke that out of society of a new Cartesian truth, then just a few people, just these few million people, if they transform, that's enough to make changes in the human brain, so that in a few generations we have brain circuits, people born with brain circuits of transformation, so they don't have to do it themselves, right? That's what makes me the maximal hopeful. So 100th monkey is literally correct. If we can do like the 1 millionth or the 5th million person, the proverbial 100th monkey, then we'll have brain circuits established in the whole humanity of love, of justice, of all these positive emotions.
So those things are what's different now than all the other peaks in history, all the other spiritual renaissances we've gone throughout our history, as far as creating some real lasting change within the human condition?
Right. We know the mechanism. That's the first thing. We know that it's all the creative process. And second of all, we now know that only a few people have to do it, and therefore it never has been a hopeless task. Sometimes it seems very hopeless because you see the religions have been around for thousands of years and not much change in humanity, and that is true. But you have to agree that bulk of the time these religious traditions have done one thing. We always have had a fairly permissive environment for it. And then what happened in the West was that environment developed a different kind of hierarchy, where the religion came at the top and they sort of cut off all other societal enterprises so that nothing could move. We had total dark ages, so to speak. We started living in misery practically because the religious worldview dominated. That domination did not do us any good. And now we have the turnabout is fair play, I suppose, so the materialists are dominating for the last 60 years. Not quite, because it's a 50-50 split. But the materialist domination is not helping because it has broken down the value structure of the society. So anything goes, and this is why businesses are rampantly greedy, and there's so much clash between political parties. Nobody wants to really solve the problems that the countries face. You are in Japan. Japan has its own economic problem. We are in America, the same economic problems, but be it any place. Economic problems exist everywhere, and economic problems are coming because of this kind of corruption that have arisen from the worldview, although people don't talk about it. But that's surreptitiously, the worldview is the corrupting influence today, just as the religious worldview became corruptive influence before the 16th century.
Right. So what do you think about all the prophecies and everything about our time, or apparently, or the whole 2012 thing? What do you think that there's some significance there, and that the conscious field allowed people to see into the future and perceive our time as a great time of change?
I think that the prophecies have to be taken metaphorically, but other than that, prophecies come from the work of very intuitive people. Intuition is valued in the new science. Intuition gives us a glimpse of a non-local something that brings of a truth. Although the actual language in which the intuition is expressed often will suffer from the personal idiosyncrasies of the person who is prophesying. So they are never to be taken to be literally. Just as religious truth, if taken literally, it gives us all the religious bigotry that takes place that today we decry, like creationism. But if we remember that, just look at the most famous right now prophecy Mayan calendar, which one of the Mayan calendars, not all the Mayan calendars, but one of them just stops at 2012. And some people have ascribed this to a catastrophe in December 2012 itself, which I don't think is going to happen. Anybody can see that, I hope. But so taken literally, it's a meaningless prophecy. But if you take it metaphorically, on the other hand, look at what the prophecy is actually saying. It's saying, just as Nostradamus' prophecy in 1995, or other people saw something at the Millennium Mystery, as it was called, the change from the 19th to the 20th century. So all these are prophecies of a kind, an intuition that big change is coming, a crisis is coming, catastrophe is coming. Now, if you look at big creative events in society, if you look at big creative events in humanity itself, or in the life of the biological process, biological evolution, what we find is very interesting. Many of the huge changes of speciation that have taken place in the evolutionary scenario that we have uncovered from the fossil data, we find that many of them are accompanied, in fact all of them are accompanied with geological catastrophes. And so the conclusion is inevitable. For creativity, we need some pressing problem. And look at your own life. I look at my life. The biggest creativity, of course, that I have done in my work, is very fortunate about is the solution of quantum measurement problem. How did this incentive arise? The incentive arose because in 1973, I became very aware in a very inspired moment at a conference where I was feeling the whole day, I was feeling the energy of jealousy. That made me so disgusted. A crisis arose in my consciousness, and that from that crisis spewed out the thought, why do I live this way? This way meaning that this non-integrated way where what I do in physics has nothing to say to me about how I live my life. So I wanted to change my life, I wanted to integrate my life, and that brought me the search for doing physics in a different way than I was doing. So everybody has a story like that to tell, you know.
Right, the double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Exactly. So creativity is walking the razor's edge, as they say. So, this is the kind of thing that we need to recognize, that catastrophes are important, crisis is important in our personal as well as social, as well as for the entire species to change. And therefore these prophecies are attracting our attention to these kind of catastrophes.
Right. Well, we definitely, and that's something that Ramon and I have both not remarked about on the show several times about the looking out at the world and how much turmoil that we as a society are in right now, and the result of that. I mean, you look out, it's awful ugly and everything, but the result of that is that there are so many people on a moment-by-moment basis that are doing that quote-unquote wake-up thing, asking those questions. So I see the silver lining within this big dark cloud.
Tom, it almost seems like people who are waking up almost live a double life. Like they're almost like a secret agent, and I'll explain what I mean by that. It's, they do the day-to-day basis, and where they're friends, they just talk about the normal things. But when they're around the right person, they start talking about those things and they start questioning those things. But they feel like they can't really do that around the average person or everyday life. And,
right.
and we have to make areas for people where they can just feel free to talk about these things.
Right. This is the niche I was talking about. Like the scientists were able to niche out for themselves the academe, where they could talk about their ideas, where they could do experiments freely without having to be afraid of the church. This is very important. This is why internet is so important to us. This is why internet is one place where we can at least express, we can talk, we can publish our ideas without any fear of having retribution or anything like that. But it has to be a little more. As I said, that this is a much more difficult work than the scientists like Newton had to do in the 16th, 17th century. It's even more difficult. Why? Because it requires not only ideas, but also requires personal transformation. And personal transformation is even more time-consuming because you have to have relationships in order to do it. So how do we eke out the time? The only way of doing it, if you think about it, is to have a job which is conducive to the same kind of work as your exploration is about. So we need to change particularly the business place, the place where you earn your living. So this is why right now all my time is occupied writing a book on conscious economics, how to develop an economics of consciousness, where we will have the economic arena itself will provide us jobs to make a living doing things like exploration of love, beauty, justice, truth, at least meaning, so that we can be creative in our work itself. Not all of us, just some of us will do. But if businesses had a department of subtle energy, let's say, and they hired a few subtle energy scientists, then these scientists could explore subtle energy. Similarly, if we could develop academies on the internet, which we are already doing, that would give education of meaning and eke out a living for some of us, then this kind of thing would become possible. Then you could explore love and make a living out of it.
Very nice, very nice. I'm very optimistic about our future. I don't think we have any way to go but up. So, well, we've about burned up this first hour here, and boy, I want to thank everybody for joining us for this first hour. This has been quite enjoyable, and I hope everybody will join us in the second segment where we will talk with Amit about manifestation and doobie-doobie-doo. I just love that. And actually, I want to get his thoughts on reincarnation and death. And anyways, hope you guys can join us in the member section. And if you are curious on how to get there, www.the100thmonkeyradio.com and hit that members tab and help support Ramon and I with what we are doing. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
Oh, well, hold on, Tom. We didn't give Amit where we can find his books.
Oh, absolutely, I didn't. How rude of me.
How rude. Sorry, I'm trying to train him better.
Oh. You never claimed to be.
Okay, thanks, Ramon.
So,
go ahead, Ramon.
No, where can we find your website? What's your website, your books?
www.Amit Goswami, that spells like AmitGoswami.org. That's again www.AmitGoswami, one word, AMIT, as in Tom, GOSWAMI.org.
How many books do you have out now?
In print about 8. I think I'm counting correctly. But out of the 8, one may be quite mathematical, called Quantum Mechanics. That's for specialists. But the other 7 are very readable, very popular, audience-oriented. I think they're quite user-friendly. And especially if you are interested in some of the ideas that we expressed in this hour, read the book that came out in 2011, which is called How Quantum Activism Can Save Civilization. We also, my associates Lee Stewart and Dennis Slade, have made a beautiful documentary, in my opinion, beautiful, called The Quantum Activist. So if you see these two, read How Quantum Activism Can Save Civilization, and watch this documentary called The Quantum Activist, I think you'll get a wonderful idea of what the movement of quantum activism is about. And of course, I would love for you to join the movement of quantum activism, become a quantum activist, and I take the chance of thanking Tom and Ramon for their help in putting me on the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming. What?
Can I do it now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, condemnation.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Can I take a break for a water drink?
Yes.
Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
Okay, we'll see you guys in the second segment.
Rama Krishnaya Te Namaha.
Yes, I. This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us. To the leaders that pass away, put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loot. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change
that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace,
aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King,
aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
this light
for the moment in need.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scar, trying to settle the score and maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting a seed to fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing recede. Due to the media propaganda killing my creed. Know what don't kill me, make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fighting for inches before it's attached to feet. They try to sell you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante while the anti-proletariat told the powers to be. But we keep fighting, surviving and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace,
aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King,
aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
this light,
for the moment in need.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the trees, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility.
Be the change that you wanna see